All right, we're recording, and hopefully I can keep this quick. I don't know, because it's getting late, but I realized I need to do a recording now. I wouldn't be able to do one for a few days. Anyhow, so it's a prologue of the Wrath of Khan portion of Star Trek Duty, Honor, Redemption, which is the trilogy of movies. So this is the start of the actual story portion. Although, actually, before the prologue, we do get better to reign in hell than serve in heaven, which is, I believe it is Khan's last line in the Space Seed, which is the original episode of the original series that introduces Khan, and is followed by Scotty having to admit he's not up on his Milton, and then, well, oh, no, that's right, no, it's Khan saying, have you read Milton, or are you familiar with Milton, before he leaves. Scotty admits that despite being Scottish, he is not up on that, and then Kirk gives the explanation of that line, better to rule in hell than serve in heaven, which is, according to Milton, Paradise Lost, what Lucifer had said, and it's essentially Khan's point of view. He must rule, he cannot be a servant, so yes, putting him on a primal world with his people, that is exactly what he wants. It will be hard, it will be difficult, but that is his nature. So, yeah, very good to put that there. Okay, so the prologue, short version is, it is the Kobayashi Maru test, which is what the movie starts with. I like this version a lot better, and it's... I can't quite say... Okay, at one point there's the mention of gravity being cut off. I can't quite say that it's something that couldn't have been done in the movie. It could have been, but the pacing would have been wrong. In a book, you can abuse... I shouldn't say abuse. Compared to a movie, you can abuse pacing a lot better. A lot more, I should say. It's not really abusing, but it is like you can spend a lot more time. You can spend an entire chapter on something like that test, which in the movie is really short. This is much longer, gets much more involved, and you really do get a sense of Saavik is trying to succeed. And like one thing, I'll get to it. Well, it's a little later, but after Sulu is killed, she hits something on the center seat that apparently moves command over to Sulu's position, navigation. So she then goes there and starts command, not only maintains command of the ship, but is also handling navigation. It's like, so she is desperately trying to do everything she needs to do. And it's, maybe desperately isn't the right way to put it, but it's a lot more involved than what's in the movie. Yeah, we do get some additional information about her. She was young for her rank, and she enhanced her natural aptitude with an apparently inexhaustible capacity for hard work. Which, I like this for two reasons. One is to just simply say she has a natural aptitude for it. I do appreciate that. But also, that combined with the hard work and her youth, that's going to be interesting to see how that plays out later with her interactions with Kirk. Because very much in the movie, you get that sense of she lacks experience, so she's constantly going by the book, and even calling him out on that at times. But Kirk is basically, I have the experience, I can just make the call. I don't need to go by the rule book because I'm one of the people that wrote the rule book, essentially, or at least I have the experience to know I don't need to follow that. And she isn't there yet, but there's still value to her anyway, that you know, it's like to going by the rule book. You know, they are there for a reason. They're not there to be dismissed, Kirk. They are there for a reason. You can choose to dismiss them based on your experience, but that doesn't mean that's always the right call. So yeah, I do like this, and it will be interesting. I am curious how their dynamic will work. Oh yeah, I do also want to mention that there's nothing given away during the prologue about this being a fake Enterprise. This isn't the real Enterprise. It's just a test. Absolutely nothing except for the presence of all the trainees. Yeah. Okay, so just where is it? If she was nervous and he, Spock, knew she must be, she concealed her feelings well, because he's on the bridge, and it seems... Oh, does it say he's captain? No, it just says Mr. Spock. I'm not sure what his rank is. I think he is Captain Spock at this point. It seems like he's the chief observer for this, but you do have Uhura, Sulu, and McCoy does appear later. Scotty's also involved, and Dr. Chapel is involved, though we only hear them, we don't see them. So they're all there, but I would assume Spock is the one mainly watching, mainly observing. But yeah, if she was nervous, she concealed her feelings well, which is interesting because she is Vulcan. Well, it does get a little explained here. Saavik was half Vulcan, but while Spock's other parent was a human being, Saavik's had been Romulan. Which I think I had seen or heard that mentioned before, that she is not full Vulcan. That there was Romulan blood there. So this is interesting. But it's also interesting because, remember, in the original series, it had even been stated that no one had even seen a Vulcan. Seen a Romulan until Balance of Terror. So that would have been, at this point, at least 8 years, because that was a season 1 episode. So that's the start of the 5-year journey that did complete. Extra 3 years to the motion picture. And then I'm not sure how far between motion picture and Wrath of Khan, how much time there was there. But, at least 8 years. I guess, well, that would mean that in those 8 years, you would need sufficient normalization of relations between Vulcan and Romulus that you could have a couple form some sort of relationship. And given how Vulcan sexuality is, oh man, there was so much ranting that I gave in the motion picture novelization about how Vulcan sexuality really makes no sense. It's very, very poorly described. I mean, unless it's something like the Romulan actually raped the Vulcan and produced Saavik. Unless it's something like that, it doesn't seem reasonable. Oh, wait, yeah. There's also, she's not that young. So she would have had to have been born prior to the events of the space scene, unless we're talking many years after the motion picture. Which this was, what, like a few years later? When was this? Because motion picture was 79. Hang on. One of the nice things about having all the movies on a server that I can then connect to. Wrath of Khan was in 82, so 3 years later. So, even if she were born the year of Balance of Terror, that'd make her 11. Yeah. So that is actually a problem then, that she can't... Yeah, okay. To be fair, okay, I am very forgiving of ignoring the canon or getting the canon wrong with the original series. I'm very forgiving of this. And here's why. Star Trek was made to be a television show. The movies like this and the 90s series, so TNG, Deep Space Nine, those were made to be Star Trek films and Star Trek television shows. They were made to be Star Trek. The original series was not. It was made to be a television show. It spawned a franchise, but it wasn't being crafted as that at the time. So you didn't necessarily have full background, full backstory for things. You do see things that are apparently contradictory, at least in my opinion. They do appear to be contradictory within the original series, because that wasn't their priority. That didn't matter to them. Okay, well, they want consistency, yes, but if they screwed up, if they forgot something, didn't matter, make the next episode. So I am able to forgive that, but it is technically an issue. Oh, one other thing, though, and this would be more of an issue. TNG episode, The Drumhead. Very good episode. There is an ensign, I believe he is, who... Him being half Romulan is actually an issue. Actually, he's not even half Romulan. He's not. I think it was a grandfather was Romulan. So it'd be a quarter Romulan. That alone caused issues, such that he needed to hide it. And in fact lied, saying that his grandfather was Vulcan instead of Romulan, and this was a significant issue. So it was kind of funny that we already have Lieutenant Saavik, I think she's only a lieutenant at this point, but training to be captain, who is half Romulan, just full on half Romulan, and no problem apparently in Starfleet. But about 90 years later, it's a major problem, for an even lesser relation. So yeah, that's interesting. It's probably because they did intend with the Next Generation for the Romulans to be the new chief adversary, like the Klingons were in the original series. In fact, there's even at the end of one episode, I don't remember which it is, when two Romulan commanders on their ship that they're hailing, on the screen with the Enterprise, one of them simply says, and it might have even been Mark Alamo, because I think he played a Romulan at one point before we got Cardassians, but anyway, even just saying, we are back. Like, the Romulans had just gone isolationist, not really talking to anyone, and now this was a first major encounter, and we're back. Yeah, let me actually... It's probably a bad idea. Because I don't know if I'm spelling it right. Hey, I did. Yeah, I did actually spell it right. Cool. Remember that. I didn't remember that Mark Alamo was in... Oh, yeah. No. He is. In Total Recall. Okay. Come on. I like having scripts turned off, but boy does it mess with things on IMDb, because everything has to be behind JavaScript. Okay. Okay, he's uncredited in one episode, but Season 1, Episode 25, The Neutral Zone, Commander Tabak. Okay, so yes, and yeah, that is exactly the episode I was thinking. And is that... Yes, it is. It is the final episode of Season 1. That's what I also thought. I wasn't certain. That's the main reason I wanted to look. Not just was I correct, there's Mark Alamo, who, for those not realize that, he's Gul Dukat, which, in Deep Space Nine, which, he does a good job. Deep Space Nine had very good casting for a lot of those roles, and they did a good job balancing them as well. Anyway, come back to this. So yeah, she is half Romulan, half Vulcan. It still gives her certain difficulties, though, which is why I highlighted this line. Spock had not failed to notice Savik's progress in the use of conventional social pleasantries, because she had said earlier, "Thank you, Helm Officer. Set us a course along the perimeter of the neutral zone, if you please." So it's kind of reflecting how Spock has always found these difficult. He tends to neglect them, even though he does try. But she is able to do that. And very much when reading that, I was feeling like, okay, she is being set up to be his successor. Because as the introduction had mentioned, it had leaked that they had intended to kill off Spock. So she is being set. So it seems she's being set up as his successor for when he dies. But of course, we also do know that his death in this prologue, that's not real. So, but still is that seems to be what she is here for. Which, no, I can't say that. I can believe this Savick is going to be better at the science officer post than in Wrath of Khan. But both are still far more, no, here for command, not here for science. But there is one time when well, I'll get to it. Okay. Nothing that happens. It's a much more intense test here than in the movie. Like there's even, so Sulu is answering a question just when being asked, it's like, what information we got on the long-range sense scan. Very little, Captain. High concentrations of interstellar dust and gases. Ionization causes sensor interference. A blip that might be a ship or might not. So there is a much stronger suggestion here that Kobayashi Maru is just a trap. It's completely a setup. It is not actually there. Although later on does seem like they were detecting something there, but then after the Klingons appear, it stops, it vanishes, as in the Klingons the Kobayashi Maru is a real ship that drifted in. The Klingons destroyed it, and then proceeded to continue trapping the Enterprise. Which, yeah. Now, part of it, and I think this is also in the movie, they were damaged by a gravitic mine. And this is part of the message that the Enterprise gets. So, upon entering the neutral zone, this is her command. Full shields, Mr. Sulu. Sensors on close range, high resolution. Spock raised one eyebrow. Gravitic mines were seldom deployed singly. That was true, but restricting the sensors to such a limited range was a command decision that easily could backfire. On the other hand, long-range sensors were close to useless in a cloud of ionized interstellar gas. He concentrated on the screen sensors. It just occurred to me, I need to make a specific note here. Noted in the test that long-range sensors are of limited use in ionized gas, such as a nebula. So we're potentially getting set up here. The whole thing in the Mutaro Nebula that their sensors, that the Reliance sensors and Enterprise's sensors aren't working, they're not going to be able to see each other. Now, close range sensors having a better shot, okay, that's fair. But it still is, like, once they're outside of that close range, they can't see anything. So, yeah, I that did not occur to me until just now. I like that, though. That there's a lot of stuff being dropped. And in a way, then, it's also then mirroring the whole Spock dies at the end of this test, just as he dies at the end in the Nebula as well. So, yeah, it is actually... if it does line up that way, if it does continue to align that way, I really do like that. Especially because of the whole... Yeah, we faked you out. We're not actually killing him. Oh, wait, no, we are. But it's like, it is mirroring precisely what you thought the fake out was. Yeah, I also do have in here, in my notes, I'm liking how this is written. A little too much tech jargon. Yeah. But the pacing and progress through the action keeps it interesting, even with knowing what's coming. And it definitely gets a lot more involved. In the movie, it's just 3 Klingon ships. In this, it's initially 3, then it's like, okay, Helm, warp 6, we'll just outrun them. Then it's like, there's 4 more ships at 00, which... To explain, do I have anything that was written? Not really. To explain the coordinate system in here, and it does make sense. But they are skipping things. They'll say things like, oh crap, I don't remember exact ways, but they'll give first one angle, and they will typically say angle, and then mark something else that's actually going like this. So it's 0 means, as far as horizontally, the going all the way around is straight ahead, so 12 o'clock. But then also, so horizontal clock, horizontal circle, 0, 0, it's then, so the circle were vertical, so 12 o'clock again. So they also then mention like 0 minus 90, so that would be on the circle, the second circle, the vertical one, down. I think typically you do hear it being said, like 0 mark 90 or 0 mark minus 90. That it's like that. We're skipping the mark here, but that is the translation. Yeah. Enterprise, well, okay, so 4 more ships, so it's total 7. Enterprise cannot outmaneuver 7 Klingon cruisers. It will, however, outrun them. If we lure them far enough at their top speed, we can double back even faster and rescue the survivors before the Klingons can catch up to us again, McCoy said. Because he doesn't like that they're basically going to try to run away from the Kobayashi Maru that does need assistance, in theory. We don't know if the ship is actually there or not, but he's like, no, we have to do something. It's like, Bones, there's literally 7 ships here. We would struggle against 2 of them. Okay? No, we can't do this. But yeah, so we're just faster, which I also want to say I appreciate that because there should be a jockeying between the Klingon battlecruisers and the Constitution class. I'm okay with that, and I do think after how it was set up in the motion picture, Enterprise should still be above. Maybe a new cruiser comes out, but definitely that can be a, hey, they outgun us, but we're faster still. I'm good with that. I like that. That competition, I feel, is important between the Federation and Klingons because it helps maintain a competency for both. Okay, and competency, you need that. You need that. That was one of my complaints with the motion picture. Anyway. Okay, so this is Sulu has been killed. Saavik slammed her hand down on her controls, transferring command to the helm. She took Sulu's place. Croy, the trainee there, fought for data enough to aim the torpedoes. Saavik did the calculations in her head, keyed them into the console, transferred a copy to Croy's station, and spoke to Scott in the engineering room. In the engine room. And it's basically, yeah, we got nothing. Sorry. They hit us very, very hard. And I think even more ships arrive as well. I mean, they are very much surrounded. The enemy ships enclosed them, hovering at the vertices of an impenetrable polyhedron. Spock saw the final attack in the last fitful glow of the view screen. Firing their phasers simultaneously, the cruisers enveloped the Enterprise in a sphere of pure energy. Spock imagined he felt the radiation flaming through the ship. He grabbed for a handhold. His console exploded in his face. I am skipping a lot. That's a much more intense thing than what's in the movie. And it on the one hand, okay, there is one issue, but on the one hand, I almost would like to see that, like, remade, this scene remade, showing all that, but on the other hand, I wouldn't trust it today. Because today they just want to do it all in CG, which will look like crap. Whereas, in the original, they were using models. I'm sorry, the models always look better. They have an actual texture to them because they're real. They have a texture. But at the same time, there's also, I just don't trust it to look good because what they did with the original series, with the enhanced effects, it looks like just somebody's nephew did that in their garage over a weekend. And one thing about that really annoys me is that even if you're like, oh, it's not that bad, remember this. Those came out in the early 2000s, as I recall, or late 90s, early 2000s. Deep Space Nine already had the Defiant at that point. The Defiant only existed in CG. It was never a physical model. But that thing, they have it in the opening, it moving by the Deep Space Nine model. That was always a model except for the final scene. The very final scene of Deep Space Nine. When Jake and Kira are there and the camera pulls out from the viewport on the promenade, that's the only time the station is CG. The only time in the entire series. But the Defiant up against it in the opening, it looks perfect. It looks completely fitting there. And I can't recall any other time in the series when the Defiant didn't look good. And that was for a television show. That had to be produced every week, but they couldn't do a better job for the original series when upgrading the graphics. So no, I would not trust this being remade today, except by fans. Fans are awesome. So yeah, all right. Hang on, I just want to check. How does it end? All hands, she said again, abandoned ship. I mean, yeah. I was just trying to remember if there was anything else there. So it's basically she lost the Kobayashi Maru test, which is the normal thing. All hands abandoned ship and the launching of the log, which it did occur to me just when thinking about something else today. It's like, that's actually kind of stupid when you think about it. I mean, yeah, sure, you want the logs to be preserved so that your side can find out, but at the same time, you launched this after being attacked by an enemy. Why would the enemy not just pick up the logs and then learn everything? I mean, it's actually really stupid. I mean, it's borderline. It would make more sense that you just set off your self-destruct before you are destroyed by your enemy ship, by an enemy, so that they can't gain any knowledge from your ship, from the wreckage of your ship even. So, yeah. See, I'm also just trying to think. Like in World War II with naval battles, was there anything like that? Not that I know a great deal of history for it, but it's still. Was there anything like that? Okay, only 25 minutes. I can think on this a little bit more. See, I think one issue, though, with trying to think about that in World War II is the majority of those battles that I would think of, both sides are hammered hard enough that you're not going to waste the time trying to recover enemy wreckage. You would just leave. You may try to remember where the wreckage is so another fleet can come in and do something, but you're not going to try to do that yourself. One exception, and I can never... Is it Midway? I can never remember if it's Midway or if it's a different battle. That's the one where... It's the first time in naval warfare that the two fleets never saw each other. It was fought basically just by aircraft carriers and the aircraft on them. And we beat the shit out of the Japanese. I mean, it was so like total destruction of the enemy fleet, and we lost maybe like just on the order of a few dozen aircraft. It was insane how lopsided that was. It might have been Midway, it might have been a different battle. I'm sorry, I don't quite remember. But no, I mean it changed warfare for one thing by just showing that could happen. But it also changed the morale concerning World War II, concerning the Pacific Theater, because we were we were pushed back onto our heels after Pearl Harbor. We had some aircraft carriers, but no one really believed in them. And we had submarines that they could go out and do some stuff, but we weren't necessarily always aggressive with them. In some cases we were, not always. But this was a major victory that the Japanese, I don't believe, ever were able to recover from. It's not like they could build enough ships to replace what were lost in that one battle. And so that the shift in momentum that was achieved there was never going to be undone for the Pacific Theater. It was that significant. But more importantly, it demonstrated that aircraft carriers are going to determine the future of naval warfare and success, not the battleship. Of course, today, I could see a good argument that it's submarines potentially, because you can put so much shit on a submarine. I mean, you got ICBMs on there, you've got cruise missiles on there, you've got other things, and they can just go around and linger in places for long periods of time. Actually, I'm a little unsure about that, but they can certainly move without being seen. Stealthily. Okay, I wasn't sure if I'd actually be able to pronounce that or not. I wasn't trusting my speech impediment for that one. I'm not sure if they can linger, though, because that is one thing they do remember about, like, in Run Silent, Run Deep. I know this is quite an aside, but actually Run Silent, Run Deep is a worthy movie to talk about, because the fight in the Mutara Nebula is very much reminiscent of that, just as a Balance of Terror is reminiscent of it. But one thing, when the two submarines are paused, they actually start floating up. That's because even with the buoyancy control, you actually do need the they're not wing. What the hell are they? The control planes. I just don't remember what they're actually called. You do actually need those angled down if you want to dive, if you want to stay under the water, and you need forward momentum, then forward motion to keep pushing the actually it'd be like that when it would be like this, to keep pushing the submarine down, the boat down. I mean, maybe nuclear submarines are an exception to that. I'm not sure, but it still is. That had been a concern previously, and it might still be one. So you can't just have one parked. You do, in fact, need to, and keep it underwater. You do, in fact, need to keep it moving to stay underwater. But nuclear submarines, because basically it's an entirely electric power system, you don't need, it's not like diesel where you do need to go up and get fresh air, anything like that. And there's so much power from a nuclear reactor that you can also recycle the air internally and do the CO2 scrubbing and all that. You can achieve that with a nuclear submarine. Can't do that with diesel. You need it to always come up to the surface for some period of time to at least vent the air. But yeah, it's... Sorry, I know, quite an aside, but it is... Run Silent, Run Deep influenced Star Trek multiple times, multiple ways, and it is, in some ways, submarine combat is the one that is the most interesting to consider with starships fighting, because they have to be completely sealed. And they're... I mean, not so much in this, but that there is an element of stealth there. In Star Trek, you can see other ships very easily. But yeah, it's very much that whole, they are completely sealed. You cannot have a hull breach. That's the worst thing that can happen to you. But also the whole, submarines do have the ability to move up and down. Not often depicted in films. Yeah, a lot of those do tend to be just 2D. I mean, it does come into play, like even in Run Silent, Run Deep, because they fire torpedoes underneath a decoy ship that basically has nothing under the water. So they actually fire under it to hit a target on the other side, but that's not quite the same. I should just stop talking now. But anyway, yeah. So I have been in... I do enjoy the prologue here. I think that it's well done there. Yeah. Kobayashi Maru test is much more interesting. I guess, hang on. Maybe this would make more sense for the next chapter, or later chapter when they talk about the test. It should be that there's multiple tests, and it's just Savick, coin flip said it's Kobayashi Maru for you that is no-win scenario, because that way she can't be talking to another person at the academy and be like, yeah, Kobayashi Maru, man, I just cannot beat this. And they go, yeah, I can't beat it either. Huh? You think you can't to win it, beat it at all? It's like, shouldn't have that conversation. It should be, what do you mean? I did it easily. This is what I did. All right, can you see? All right, I'll try that next time. It didn't work. Why'd you tell me that? It should be like that, where you don't know which one it is. Because presumably every officer in the academy that is ultimately on the command track needs to go through that. So, yeah. Alright, that is enough of my blathering. This did not end up being as short as I wanted it to be, but I mean, it's not bad. It's not too long. I do want to quickly see one thing. How 17 to 27. Okay, that's actually not too bad. That's not too bad for how long the chapter 1 is. Okay. All right. See you next time.